The book of Jonah is truly one of a kind among the prophetic books of the Bible. It tells the story of a man named Jonah and his extraordinary journey to preach to the people of Nineveh, a city the Bible describes as sinful and wicked. Now, Nineveh was no ordinary city. It was known for its wickedness, and God, in His righteousness, decided that it was time to deal with this evil. But because God is full of mercy and compassion, He decided to give them a warning first. He wanted to give them a chance to turn from their wicked ways. So, God called upon Jonah and told him, "Go to Nineveh and preach against it." But Jonah had a different idea. He knew the city deserved punishment, and he also knew that if the people repented, God might spare them. And that didn't sit well with Jonah. So, instead of heading to Nineveh, Jonah came up with his own plan. He boarded a ship and set sail for Tarshish, trying to escape his mission. But God, being almighty and all-knowing, stirred up a fierce storm at sea to bring Jonah back. Jonah, however, wasn't too worried. He knew that God was behind the storm, trying to get his attention and send him back to Nineveh. So, what did Jonah do? He went to sleep, right in the middle of that raging storm. The storm was so violent that the ship was about to break apart. The sailors were terrified, and each cried out to their gods. The captain found Jonah sleeping and woke him up, probably wondering how anyone could sleep at a time like this. They decided to cast lots to find out who was responsible for this calamity. And, sure enough, the lot fell on Jonah. Jonah knew the Lord well. He was confident that the raging sea was only a threat meant for him, not the sailors. He assured them that if they threw him overboard, the sea would calm down. At first, the sailors hesitated. They didn't want to throw a man overboard. But as the storm grew fiercer, they realized they had no choice. So, they tossed Jonah into the sea. Now, Jonah was a man who deeply believed in God. Even as he was sinking into the depths of the sea, he trusted that God would save him. And indeed, the Lord sent a huge fish to swallow Jonah, keeping him safe inside its belly for 3 days and 3 nights. From inside the fish, Jonah prayed to God, a prayer filled with faith and trust. "In my distress, I called to the Lord, and He answered me. From deep in the realm of the dead, I called for help, and you listened to my cry." Jonah was confident that God was listening to him, even from the belly of the fish. "You hurled me into the depths, into the very heart of the seas, and the currents swirled about me. All your waves and breakers swept over me. I said, 'I have been banished from your sight, yet I will look again toward your holy temple.'" Here, Jonah shows his faith once more, believing that he would again look toward God's holy temple. It's almost as if Jonah was grateful to God for sending the fish to save him from drowning. "The engulfing waters threatened me, the deep surrounded me. Seaweed was wrapped around my head. To the roots of the mountains I sank down. The earth beneath barred me in forever. But you, Lord my God, brought my life up from the pit." Jonah had been in the belly of the fish for 3 days, but he was still confident that God would save him. He was sure that the Lord would deliver him from the depths of the ocean. "When my life was ebbing away, I remembered you, Lord, and my prayer rose to you, to your holy temple." Those who cling to worthless idols turn away from God's love for them. But I, with shouts of grateful praise, will sacrifice to you. What I have vowed, I will make good. I will say, "Salvation comes from the Lord." What a powerful prayer! Even though Jonah was in the belly of the fish, he proclaimed his faith boldly. He knew the Lord, and he trusted that even in the face of death, God would deliver him. And just as Jonah believed, the Lord commanded the fish to spit Jonah out onto dry land. Jonah is often seen as a reluctant prophet who struggled with God's commands, but in reality, Jonah was a man who knew God well, a man who couldn't stand the thought of sinful people dishonoring God. Jonah's prayer is a powerful example of the strength of faith. It shows us that proclaiming our trust in God, even in the darkest of circumstances, can bring about redemption.